Aussie, you have to believe me. I have no idea I could do what I did with the blocks. I swear I didn't know that. That I could do all of that. Because if I had known, I would have just stopped the Underworlders and the Darklings before the battle could even start. I would have saved that village. I would have.
Of course we believe you, silly.
Whoop. Starting at the sound of Dawn's voice, I looked towards the rabbit hole and saw her upper body sticking out, with her arms folded before her and a knowing smirk on her face, as her bunny ears stood straight up on her head.
Remember, these ears know a fib when they hear one, and they haven't heard a single one come out of your mouth. Now come on, you two. We haven't got all night.
Whoop. As Dawn once again disappeared into her rabbit hole, Aussie sighed and looked squarely at me. For what it's worth, I would have believed you even if Dawn hadn't been here. I didn't know what to say to this, so I just sighed and nodded and allowed myself to be guided into the rabbit hole and back to Kahe Village. When we returned to Kahe Village, everyone there was working full blast, both dealing with the wounded and keeping an eye on the Darklings that were still trapped within the impromptu trench I had created around the village. For while they were still trapped, they were relentless in their attempts to try and climb their way out and get at the targets of their aggression. And as a result of this, there was no time for any discussion about my deeds during the battle. But all the same, when Liliana met with us, she made it very clear that she would want to know exactly what happened, and how I was able to accomplish something that she and every other person there knew to be completely impossible. Something that made it very difficult for me to sleep, even after Dawn escorted me to her home for the night. Eventually, night gave way to morning, and for the second time in many days, Liliana arrived at Dawn's home. Just like before, I was subjected to a grueling interrogation regarding my actions and capabilities, as well as my origins. And unlike the last time, there was no dodging her questions, no concealing the reality of where I had come from with half-truths or truths or evasions. I had to speak the entire truth to Liliana, Zahn, Dawn, and Aussie about where I had come from, how I had come to be here, and the fact that I had absolutely no idea how I was able to do something that no one in the world had been able to do for untold years. And with every incredible word I spoke, every piece of my story that I knew had to be impossible in their minds, I could see their incredulity mounting, with only Dawn and her bunny ears keeping me from being accused of deceit. But that didn't stop me from being discredited as a lunatic. Another world? With our world nothing but some kind of game? Liliana, how much longer are we going to listen to the ravings of a madman?
But Taki saved us all last night. You saw that for yourselves.
Yes, I saw, and he did it by commanding the blocks, something that he claims he had no idea how to do before last night.
Hey, my ears aren't broken, in case you were wondering. I know the truth when I hear it.
I'm not saying he's a liar. I'm saying that only someone who was thoroughly deranged could concoct such a ludicrous story. I groaned heavily at this, having seen the situation coming from a long way off. But even as I massaged my forehead, trying to think of something I could say or do, Liliana gave Zahn a look. Lunatic or not, what appears here is that Takashi clearly believes what he is saying to be true. And more importantly, he fought to save back from the darkness, and was even able to contain many of the Darklings without killing them, meaning that we still have a chance to restore them to the light, and return them to their lives. And you would want to make an enemy of someone who could do all of that. I didn't mean that, Liliana, I swear. But I don't see how we can accept a story like that at face value. Excuse me? Listen, I don't really blame you for feeling that way. I mean, I know that if something like this had happened in my world, people would have laughed me off, or had me taken to the loony bin. But this is all real. I don't know how I can convince you, but this is really real. You said that your father created some kind of game device, and that you thought our entire world was nothing but a game he made? And, Zahn, please, Takashi, let me ask you something. Do you think that this is some kind of game? That this is all some kind of illusion created by your father for someone's amusement? No. I admit that at first I thought that's what it was. And a couple times I was so freaked out by everything that was happening. I actually found myself wishing that it was a game. I mean, no offense, but I understand. Truth be told, I've found myself wishing that this whole world war was nothing but an illusion of kind many times since it began. But I realize that it's not possible. This world, and everyone I've met, you're all real. And everything that's happened, that I've felt and gone through, there's just no way that this could be a game. So, yeah, I believe that, no, I know this is real. I know it. There was a real heavy silence as Liliana nodded at this, pausing just long enough to glance over at Dawn and her ears before speaking again. Takashi, while I have to admit that I'm having difficulty with everything you've told me, Dawn's made it clear that you're telling us the truth to the best of your abilities. And so, I'm going to show you the same courtesy. I don't know how to help you return to your home, or how we could build a device like the one that brought you here in the first place. And while I would like to be able to help you get back to where you came from, I have absolutely no idea how I or anyone else here could do so. I understand. To be honest, I don't think my father or anyone else back in my world would understand how this happened. Or, well, wincing inwardly at this, at the idea of never being able to see my family, I did my best to shove this to the side, to try and stay focused on the matter at hand. Also, I have to be honest about this. If not for you and your ability, this village and everyone in it would have been either turned to darkness or forced to flee from their lives. And if we had to run, I dread to think what kind of life we would have been forced to live. Always on the run, always in fear of being discovered by the Underworlders and their forces. That's no way to live. And you saved us all from a terrible fate. You and your ability to command the blocks is the only reason that we didn't lose our homes or our hearts to the darkness. I really do wish I had known that I could do that a bit sooner, and believe me, you're not the only one who wishes they had known in the past what they know now, but that's the past. What matters now is our futures. Zara appeared earlier this morning, and reported that she and the other lurkers hadn't seen any sign of the Underworlders since last night. And while they're certain to return eventually, it may take some time to round up enough Darklings to recreate a fighting force with which to challenge us again. And after learning of your capabilities, I doubt that they'll be willing to overtly move against us as long as you are living among us. However, as we've already learned, your abilities, though formidable, have their limits. You can only command the blocks when you touch other blocks, and even worse, the Underworlders know about you and your power. So, while they might not be willing to attack us directly, I fear that it's only a matter of time before they make another attempt to turn you to darkness, or to kill you outright. I know, and I'll die before I let them put me through that again. There are plenty among us who feel the same. And my point is this. We have a common enemy, and well, what you do next is your choice, but I truly believe that we can better ensure our survival of the times to come by working together. I can grant you a safe haven here in Kahe Village, as well as arrange for you to be protected at all times. Also, I'm sure Dawn has a few ideas of how to prevent the Underworlders from slipping into our midst the way they did last night.
I have a few, but I'd really rather I didn't have to. Not with the way this war has been burning through my supplies. Still, I don't suppose we have much of a choice. And boy, do I feel like an idiot for not realizing that they might have been able to create portals as well. Just because we never saw them doing that themselves.
We've all made plenty of mistakes over the course of this war. What matters is that we don't repeat those mistakes. In any case, Takashi, what do you say? Will you help us fight this war? Will you help us survive as we help you as well? You don't even have to ask me. I'll do it. The Underworlders need to be stopped, no matter what it takes. Nodding to this, Liliana then turned her gaze towards Ozzy and Dawn. Very well then. For now, I think it would be best if you were here to stay here with Dawn. Her house is quite possibly the safest in the village, though some men might dispute that. And when she has some time, she might be able to help you find a means to return to your world.
You got it!
But for now, I want you to get right to work on restoring the Darklings to the light. We can only keep them contained where they are for so long before starvation or worse sets in, and we need to do everything in our power to save as many of them as we can. Dawn made a face at this that made it clear that she was not looking forward to this in the slightest.
Alright, but, cleansing people of darkness always makes me feel queasy. Also, I could use some help from Takashi with that. Using the blocks to bring them out one at a time would make things a heck of a lot easier.
Sure, I'll do whatever I can to help. And we deeply appreciate that. Asahi?
Yes?
If you don't mind, I would like you to be in charge of Takashi's welfare. To be his personal bodyguard. Really?
Really?
It's clear that you've come to accept Taki and his origins, at least much more than anyone else here. And despite everything, I fear that there might be those who resent him for not knowing of his abilities sooner, and using them on our behalf. So I want someone who is not prejudiced against him to take charge of his safety. That won't be a problem, will it?
No, of course not.
Good. I'm sure that there will be much more that will be needed to be discussed in the future, but that will be all for now. If there is anything else I need to speak about, I will contact you later. Also, Asahi, I would like it if you remained in close proximity to Takashi. Since he's not of this village, I can't contact him directly. And, at least for now, it might be best if his fate wasn't tied to mine like the others here, lest the Underworlders seek an alternate route in securing his abilities for themselves.
I understand.
Then, for now, Takashi, I think it's best that you've got some rest. You've done a great service to us all, and you almost paid for it with your mind and heart. You've earned a brief respite at the very least. Thank you. Exhausted by both recent events and the grueling interrogation to which I had been subjected to the point where I felt like I had been hollowed out, I was all too relieved when Liliana stood from the table and moved to leave. Come along, everyone. There's much work for us as well. Yes, coming. Pausing just long enough to give me a look that made it clear that he wouldn't trust me any further than he could throw Mount Everest with his bare hands. Zahn moved to follow Liliana as she and the other guards with her left Dawn's home. Whee! Leaving me alone with Aussie and Dawn.
Guess I better get to work on finding a way of making this place Gwenor-proof before I have to go do the same to the entire village. But first things first, I have to get to work on restoring I don't know how many Darklings. Just the thought of it makes my mouth feel like a toilet.
Dawn!
Don't worry, I know how important it is. And I do get the warm fuzzy feeling from saving people from the darkness. But that doesn't save me from feeling sick to my stomach from all the darkness I had to pull out of everyone.
As Dawn departed, grumbling to herself, I thought back to the sheer horrors that the darkness had unleashed in my mind. Stop thinking about it, dude! And if she could actually taste such things when she drew the darkness out of people, then I honestly can't blame her for not wanting to do so over and over and over. Taki, listen, I really do hope that you manage to find your way back home someday. That your father finds you, or... Thanks, but to be honest, I don't even know where he'd be able to start with that. Like I said, my father, he creates games. Traveling between worlds, alternate realities. He doesn't know anything about that sort of stuff. Asi gave a thoughtful frown at this, then gave me an odd look.
You know, I still can't believe that you really thought this was all a game at first. Are games in your world really so different?
As Asi said these words, I found myself looking at her and thinking about everything that had happened. and while I could no longer begin to believe that this world and the people in it were product of my father's virtual reality device, there was no doubt that my time in this world resembled nothing more than an actual game. I mean, I was a stranger in a strange land. I'd found myself with a special power that no one else had, fought a horrible enemy, struggled against overwhelming odds, and was now in a position to change an entire world for the better. It was like every fantasy I ever had about what it would be like to actually be in this world of games. Only it was real. And as I thought about the kind of games I had played, the movies I had watched, I had realized that there was just one thing missing. One thing that could make this moment that much better. Well, why don't you show me the kind of games you play around here? Then maybe I can tell you about the games of my world. Blinking a few times at this, Ozzy then looked my way and gave a tiny smile.
Okay. It would be nice to be able to relax a bit. Get to know each other and everything.
As the moment deepened, I smiled in response. I reached forward and gently took Ozzy's hand in my own. Yes. Yeah, I would. And after what you did, coming after me when the Underworlders, well, I really would like to get to know you better. The moment felt perfect. I liked it. Oh, the love, it blossoms. And as Ozzy's cheek colored, I could tell she felt similarly. And with nothing else to worry about, no looming crisis to interfere, the two of us leaned towards each other, drawn together by a strange convergence that had forced us to depend upon each other. We allowed ourselves to wrap our arms around each other and gently press our lips together in a brief, tender kiss. As we pulled back and studied each other, the taste of Ozzy's lips upon my own and my heart pounding deliriously, I was given serious consideration to kissing her again, when I felt someone grab me from behind and a large set of breasts landing on my head.
Hey, why can't you spend some time getting to know me better? I'm the one who pulled you back from the darkness.
Oh, I regret nothing.
And I know lots of games we could play too.
Dawn, cut it out. You have work to do, remember?
I know. I just don't want anybody forgetting about me and all the hard work that I do while they're off having fun.
Please, Dawn. Taki's already been through so much. Why can't you just... As the two girls continued to argue, I sighed heavily. For a while, a lot of my future remained in doubt, like whether I would ever get back to my home or what kind of insanity I would have to deal with next. One thing had become abundantly clear. Of all the dangers I faced, being bored clearly wasn't one of them. Meanwhile, back on Earth and Dorfa. Oh dear God. I don't remember his voice. No, I do. How could this be happening? How can this be happening?
Professor Allerton, please. Just go get some rest for now. You're not doing yourself any good, and...
No, I have to stay here. I have to... Taki, he just has...
You have to get some rest. You're not going to do anyone any good if you're going to put yourself in a good coma. Look, I'm sure your wife could use a shoulder to cry on, and I think that her shoulder should be her husband's.
But, Taki, I have to...
I know.
What the shit? With that, Dr. Candy turned towards the Imagine V unit still stood in readiness, completely ignored by the swarms of people that were now studying what looked nothing more than like a rupture in the air itself. A rupture that was presently framed by what could only be described as being a gateway formed of many blocks. More than 2 days had passed since the first test of the Imagine V's true capabilities, with Taki's the eager guinea pig of that test. A test that ended in disaster when a brilliant blinding light had filled the lab, the instant the Imagine V had been activated, while Professor Allerton's son had sat in the VR device, oblivious to the real world, and series of blocks had appeared around him, ripping open the air around him. And an instant later, he was gone. Oh my god. What? How does this happen? Science, you have failed me again!